My name is Evelyn. I'm 64. And somewhere between losing my husband and almost losing my daughter, I learned that a mother's prayers can sound a lot like bargaining. I didn't grow up thinking I'd be a widow in my late 50s. I grew up in a little brick house in Ohio, believing that if you worked hard, went to church, and tried to be a decent person, life would more or less cooperate. For a long time, it did. I met Mark in the church choir when I was 23. We married a year later, bought a small 3-bedroom with beige carpet and big dreams, and had one daughter, Lily, who arrived looking like a tiny, furious potato and grew into the kind of girl who wrote plays instead of playing with dolls. We were a normal, messy, middle-class family. We argued about money and teenagers' curfews, made up over pancakes, and took beach trips where the sand got in everything, including the car's air vents. And when I was 57, Mark's heart betrayed him in his sleep. One ordinary Tuesday night, he kissed my forehead, mumbled something about replacing the porch light, and never woke up. Grief rearranged my world overnight. The house we'd filled together felt empty in a way I hadn't known was possible. Our bed was too big. Our dinner table was too quiet. The silence after his funeral was loud enough to rattle my teeth. People from church brought casseroles for 2 weeks, and they went back to their lives. I tried to go back to mine. I got a part-time job at the library to supplement Mark's modest life insurance and his 401k. I mowed my own lawn, figured out how to reset the breaker when the kitchen outlets died, and learned to sleep with the TV on low so the nights didn't feel endless. But the sharpest ache wasn't my empty side of the bed. It was my daughter's voice on the phone growing smaller. Lily had married young, right out of college, to a man named Ryan. At first, I thought he was charming, quick with a joke, good with a grill, the kind of man who sent me a Mother's Day card even before they were married. Over time, small things lodged in my throat. The way he joked about Lily's weight in front of people. The way he controlled the thermostat, the remote, the schedule. The way he seemed irritated whenever she spent time with me without him. "Nothing's wrong, Mom," she'd say when I probed. "He's just particular. You know how some people are." I knew how some people were. I'd grown up with a father whose temper sucked the air out of rooms, who punched walls and then bought us ice cream the next day. I'd promised myself I'd never end up with a man like that. I hadn't. My daughter, I feared, had. Then came the night she called me from the bathroom, whispering. "Mom," she said, voice shaking. "Do you have a minute?" I turned off the TV, heart dropping. "What's wrong?" On the other end, I heard the faint echo of a fan and water running noise to cover her voice. "We had a fight," she said, "Ryan and me." "What about?" I asked. "Money," she said automatically. Then, after a pause, and everything, there was a rustle like she was pressing her hand over the phone. "Did he hurt you?" I asked, keeping my voice calm by sheer will. Silence. "Lily," I said, "I need you to be honest with me." She inhaled sharply. "He threw a plate," she said finally. Not at me, but near me. It shattered. My hand tightened on the remote I still held. "And before?" I asked. "Has anything like this happened before?" More silence. Then, very quietly, once, he grabbed my wrist too hard, left a bruise. He said he was sorry. He was really stressed. He said it would never happen again. I closed my eyes. Images from my childhood flashed, my mother with makeup smudged over a black eye, saying she'd walked into a door. "Tart," I said carefully. "Men who throw things and grab too hard usually don't stop at once." "I know," she whispered, "but I love him, and I'm scared. I don't know what to do." The part of me that was her mother wanted to throw clothes in a bag, drive over, and drag her out by the hand. The part of me that was a woman who'd been judged plenty in her life knew that if I pushed too hard, she might retreat. "Are you safe right now?" I asked. "Yes," she said. He's in the garage, cooling off. I said, then here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, when he's at work, I want you to call the domestic violence hotline. Or if you're not ready, we can call together, just to talk. No one is going to force you to do anything. But you need a plan, she sniffed. I don't want to be that woman, she said. What woman? The woman who couldn't make her marriage work. The woman who leaves. I swallowed. You know who I want you to be, I said. The woman who is still alive to call me at 50. We talked until her voice steadied. After we hung up, I sat in the blue glow of the TV, numb. Then I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and did something I hadn't done since Mark's funeral. I dropped to my knees beside the bed. God, I said aloud to the empty room, I don't know what to do. I can't fix this. I can't go back and raise her differently. I can't make her leave before she's ready. I am begging you, give my daughter peace. Give her safety. Whatever it costs me, give her a way out. It wasn't a pretty prayer. It wasn't the kind you stitch on pillows. It was raw and desperate. For months after that, every time I washed dishes or shelved books at the library or sat in my car waiting for the light to change, my mind would spit out the same plea, please. Let her be safe. Let her see clearly. Let her have a home where she can exhale. Sometimes I felt a flicker of peace. Sometimes I felt like I was talking to the ceiling. At church, well-meaning people told me they were claiming victory over Lily's situation, whatever that meant. One woman said, maybe God is using this to refine her. I went home and screamed into a pillow. I did what I could in the practical sense. I researched shelters and legal resources in our county, printed out information about leaving an abusive relationship from the state's website, and tucked it into a manila folder labeled for Lily, in case there was ever a night she showed up at my door with nothing but a bag and fear in her eyes. But mostly, I prayed, not for my own comfort, not for God to send me another companion, or fix my aching hip, or fill my empty evenings. I prayed single-mindedly for my daughter's peace. Take whatever you need from me, I'd say into my pillow. Just get her out. I didn't know that the way out was already forming, like a crack in a wall she couldn't yet see. The crack in the wall showed itself on a Tuesday in late October, one of those gray Midwestern days when the sky looks like it's made of old dishwater, and the wind finds every gap in your coat. I was folding towels in my small, yellowed bathroom when I heard a car door slam outside. Then another. Quick footsteps on my front walk. Before I could reach the living room, my front door flew open. Lily stepped in, hair matted with rain, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, mascara smeared under her eyes. Behind her, my 10-year-old grandson, Caleb, clutched a stuffed dinosaur and a backpack, eyes wide and wet. Mom, she said, voice raw, we need to stay here, just for a little while. The duffel slid off her shoulder and thumped to the floor. I didn't ask what had happened. Not yet. I just moved. You're home, I said, wrapping my arms around her and Caleb at the same time, pulling them into the warmth of my little living room. You're home. That's what matters. It took hours for the story to come out in full. Once Caleb was settled in the spare room with a cartoon and a grilled cheese, Lily sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea more for comfort than taste. Rain tapped steady on the window. He didn't hit me, she said. Not this time. But he punched a hole in the pantry door, right next to where Caleb was standing. She stared at the table. Caleb screamed, she continued. Ryan yelled at him to stop crying. I saw his face, and something just snapped in me. She looked up, eyes blazing through the exhaustion. I realized I can handle plates and words and even bruises, but I will not let my son grow up thinking this is normal, she said. Not one more day. So she'd waited until Ryan stormed out to cool off, grabbed the go bag she'd secretly packed after our first hotline call months earlier, told Caleb they were going on an adventure, and driven straight to my house. "He doesn't know I'm here," she said. Yet, I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. "You did the bravest thing a mother can do," I said. "You broke the pattern." We called the hotline together from my kitchen phone, script pages I'd printed months ago spread out between us. The advocate on the other end was calm and practical, helping Lily think through safety, legal options, and what the next few days should look like. Because Lily had kept notes, dates, incidents, photos of the hole in the wall, and the bruises she used to explain away as clumsiness, she had more than just fear. She had evidence. "I'm so ashamed," she said at one point, voice breaking. "I stayed too long." "You survived long enough to leave," the advocate said firmly. "That's not shameful, that's strong." Our church's response surprised me. I'd prepared myself for the worst, questioning, minimizing the old "have you tried respecting him more" routine I'd watched other women endure. Instead, when we told our small group leader what was happening, she showed up on my doorstep with 3 pizzas, a bag of groceries, and a list. "Here's what we can do," she said. "We can help with meals, rides, babysitting, court dates. You are not doing this alone." Over the next weeks, a quiet network formed around us. Women from church took turns driving Lily to meetings with a legal aid lawyer. A retired couple offered their guest room if we needed more space. Someone slipped a grocery gift card into my mailbox with no name on it. It felt, in a way I hadn't experienced since Mark died, like the body of Christ was actually behaving like a body, different parts doing their specific, necessary work. At night, after Lily and Caleb were asleep down the hall, I lay in my bed listening to their soft breathing and whispered the same cracked prayer. "Thank you for getting her out. Please give her peace. Please give us what we need to keep going." The legal process was slow and grinding. There were mediation sessions where Ryan cried and promised he'd change, therapy sessions where Lily unpacked years of gaslighting, custody hearings where strangers in suits decided how her son's time would be divided. But through it all, Lily stayed. She did not go back. "I keep hearing your voice in my head," she told me once, "saying you'd rather me be alive at 50 than married at 30. "That's all I ever wanted," I said. Practically, it was hard. Lily got a job at a pediatric clinic, working the front desk. It paid less than she was used to, and child support took months to be finalized. My library job covered my own bare-bones life, but now there were 3 of us eating, showering, using electricity. The little emergency cushion I'd built after Mark died shrank. One afternoon, I sat at the table with my checkbook, frowning at numbers that refused to stretch, when Lily came in quietly and laid a folded envelope beside me. "What's this?" I asked. "First child support payment," she said, "and he's finally covering half of Caleb's after-school care. The court made it official." She sank into a chair, shoulders sagging. "I hate that money has to go through him," she said, "but it's something." "It's more than something," I said. "It's a recognition that raising a child is work. You're not begging, you're collecting what your son deserves." She nodded, eyes wet. We worked out a system. Lily paid a small amount of rent when she could, more symbolic than necessary. I covered groceries most weeks. Members of our church quietly filled in the gaps, hand-me-down clothes for Caleb, an oil change gifted at just the right time, a neighbor who fixed my leaky kitchen sink for fun. In the middle of all that strain, unexpected blessings began to show up in a way that made me feel like someone, somewhere, was keeping track. A woman from our congregation told Lily about a local nonprofit that specialized in helping single moms leaving abusive relationships. They connected her with free counseling, a support group, and a workshop on rebuilding finances after divorce. They even had volunteers who watched kids during group meetings so the mothers could actually focus. One of the volunteers, a gray-haired man with kind eyes, took Caleb under his wing at these sessions, playing board games, teaching him how to build little wooden cars. "Grandma Evelyn," Caleb said one night, using the full title he saved for serious topics, "Mr. Paul says my job is just to be a kid, not to fix grown-up things." "Yes," I said, throat tight. "He's absolutely right." Slowly, the lines in Lily's face eased. She laughed more. The permanent flinch in her shoulders softened. She started talking about small hopes, a certification she could get at work, a used car she might buy in her own name, maybe one day an apartment for just her and Caleb. "It feels greedy to want more when people have already done so much for us," she said once. "It's not greedy to want peace," I replied. "You're allowed to ask for more than survival." Sometime in that first year after she left, I realized something quietly astonishing. The more I focused my prayers on Lily and Caleb, the more my own life filled with unexpected kindness. My car, which I'd been praying would just hold out one more year, suddenly qualified for a free brake replacement through a recall notice. A friend of Mark's from his old job stopped by out of the blue with a check, saying, "He always talked about how much you supported his career. I sold some stock and wanted to share." And then there was the envelope from the church I almost didn't open. It arrived in December, thick cream paper with our church's logo on the corner. I assumed it was an end-of-year giving letter. Instead, inside was a simple note. "Evelyn, our benevolence team has been praying for single-parent households and widows in our congregation. We know you would never ask, but we see how you've opened your home and your life to your daughter and grandson. Enclosed is a small gift to help with winter expenses. Thank you for being an example of sacrificial love. With love, your church family." The small gift was enough to cover 3 months of my mortgage. I sat at my table and wept. "Lord," I said, voice cracking, "I only asked you to save my daughter. I didn't ask you to pay my bills too." The words that came to mind weren't some booming voice from heaven. They were my own grandmother S. "You can't outgive God, honey. You just can't." It wasn't that life suddenly became easy. It didn't. There were still court dates and co-parenting tensions. Caleb had nightmares for months, waking up crying about loud noises. My body hurt in all the predictable ways a 64-year-old body does. Money was still tight, but under all of that, there was something new in our little house: peace. Lily could sleep through the night without bracing for a door slam. Caleb could spill his milk without expecting someone to shout. I could make dinner without listening for the crack of a thrown plate. One evening, about 18 months after Lily left, we were sitting on the porch watching Caleb ride his bike up and down the street when she turned to me. "Do you ever feel guilty?" she asked. "About what?" "About the fact that in some ways my life is better now," she said. "Even with all the hard things." I thought about it. "I feel grateful," I said slowly. "Not guilty. I begged God to give you peace, even if it cost me. I didn't expect that he'd answer by multiplying it. But I'm not going to apologize for blessings that came after so much pain." She nodded, eyes shining. "I prayed too, you know," she said. "For years, I prayed God would fix Ryan, make him softer, make him see me differently. It wasn't until I started praying, 'God, please get Caleb and me out if this is never going to change,' that anything moved." She looked at me. "I think your prayers and mine finally lined up." I smiled. "Maybe so," I said. "Maybe God was just waiting for both of us to ask for the same thing." What I didn't realize then was that the double blessing I'd joked about in my journal piece for my daughter, and enough provision to hold us all, was only the first installment. Because the same community that had held us through leaving was quietly preparing something else. A way for Lily and Caleb to have a home of their own. And for me, the widow who had begged for their peace, to find a surprising second act I hadn't dared to pray for. The blessing I'd begged for was simple. Let my daughter have peace. I hadn't thought to add, and give her a place of her own. That part, God seemed to write in the margins. About 2 years after Lily left, our church started talking about a new outreach idea. It wasn't a food drive or a missions trip. It was housing. Leadership has been praying about how to love single mothers and widows in a more practical way, our pastor said one Sunday. We've learned from other churches who've launched housing initiatives, programs that help single moms stabilize, get financial coaching, and move toward homeownership instead of staying on the edge forever. My ears perked up. Around me, I felt Lily stiffen slightly. We're not there yet, he continued. We're just starting with a pilot, 1 or 2 families at a time. We want to offer stable housing at below market rent for 18 to 24 months, plus financial and legal coaching. The goal is simple. Give families room to breathe so they can build. After the service, our small group leader pulled us aside. You two came to mind when we were discussing this, she said gently. We know you have a roof now, but we also know it's tight. Would you be open to talking with the team? Pride flared in me for a moment. I'd spent years being the helper, the casserole bringer, the one who slipped gas money into envelopes. I wasn't used to being the one on the receiving end of initiatives. But then I thought of Caleb, growing bigger every day, his long legs hanging off the end of my old twin bed. I thought of Lily's quiet wish for a place that's ours, somewhere she didn't have to worry about a landlord inspecting or an ex-husband pounding on the door. Yes, I said, we're open. The program wasn't magic. It didn't hand out free houses. It offered something subtler, and in some ways more powerful, stability with a plan. The church had purchased a small duplex 5 minutes from the building, a modest brick structure with peeling shutters and good bones. They offered Lily the upstairs unit at a rent low enough to give her breathing room, with the understanding that she'd attend monthly financial coaching meetings and work toward increasing her income. You don't have to move out of here, my small group leader reminded me. This isn't about pushing you apart. It's about giving you space to have your own lives while staying close. Lily and I looked at each other. What do you think? I asked. I think I'm scared, she said, but also ready. We moved them in one Saturday in May. Volunteers from church patched holes, painted walls, and replaced a broken cabinet door. Someone donated a gently used couch and a kitchen table. Their family brought over bunk beds for Caleb's room. A handyman from the congregation fixed the leaky bathroom faucet and installed new locks on the doors. When we finally left that night, the little 2-bedroom felt more like a home than a project. Mismatched dishes in the cupboards, Caleb's drawings stuck to the fridge with magnets, Lily's favorite candle on the counter. On the drive back to my house, Lily was quiet. You okay? I asked. She nodded. I keep waiting to feel the shoe drop, she said. Like this is too much, too nice. I didn't do anything to deserve all this help. You did the hardest, bravest thing a person can do, I said. You told the truth and left what was killing you. And you've been working your tail off ever since. This isn't charity, Lily. It's harvest. She wiped her eyes. I guess your prayers worked, she said softly. They're still working, I replied. The double part of the blessing didn't fully hit me until a few months later. With Lily and Caleb settled 5 minutes away instead of 5 feet down the hall, I suddenly had something I hadn't had in years: solitude. I missed the sound of Caleb's cartoons in the morning and the clatter of Lily's keys on my kitchen counter at night. But I also found myself doing something I thought I'd forgotten how to do: listening to my own thoughts. I started volunteering more regularly with the same nonprofit that had helped Lily, sitting with other women in support groups, making coffee, sometimes just being the older face in the room who could say, "You're not crazy. You're not alone." One of the staff members, a woman my age named Teresa, pulled me aside after a session. "You're good at this," she said. "At what?" "At sitting in the mess without trying to fix it right away," she replied. "We're hiring a part-time peer support coordinator, someone to check in with clients, connect them with resources, accompany them to court if they want. You'd be perfect." I almost laughed. "I'm 64, I said. "I'm a widow with a library job and bad knees." "And more lived experience than half of us put together," she said. "We don't need you to run marathons. We need you to show up and listen." I took the job. It paid a little enough to cover my prescription co-pays, and then some. But more than that, it gave structure and purpose to my days. Instead of sitting at home worrying about Lily, I was out walking alongside other women a few steps earlier in the journey she'd walked. In a way, it felt like karma, if you want to call it, that had boomeranged my prayers back to me. I'd begged for my daughter's peace. In helping other daughters find theirs, I found my own second act. One afternoon, I was sitting with a young mom in a courthouse hallway, her toddler asleep in a stroller beside us, when she asked, out of nowhere, "Do you ever get tired of hearing stories like mine?" I thought about it. "I get tired of the pain," I said honestly. "But I never get tired of watching women rise out of it." She sniffed. "What made you want to do this?" "My daughter," I said, "and the people who helped us when we didn't know where to turn." At home that night, I sat at my kitchen table with my old prayer journal, the one I'd scribbled in after Mark died, pages full of why and how and please. On one page, dated 3 years earlier, I found the entry I'd written the night Lily first called from the bathroom. "God," I'd written in shaky pen, "I can't fix this. I am begging you, give my daughter peace. Give her a safe home. Give Caleb a soft place to land. I don't care if I ever get another good thing in this life. Just do this for them." I read it twice, then looked around my little house. My mortgage was current, thanks to the church's quiet help. My pantry, though never overflowing, had enough. My health, while not perfect, allowed me to work and serve. My daughter had a safe home of her own. My grandson had a neighborhood to ride his bike in. And I had a job that made all the years of grief feel like material in God's hands instead of wasted pain. Blessings poured in double. Not in the flashy, prosperity gospel way. I'd always side-eyed, no lottery winnings, no mystery inheritances. Just steady, specific provisions that fit exactly where the cracks in our lives used to be. If you're listening to this as a widow, or a single mother, or a woman somewhere in that 45-65 stretch who feels like your prayers bounce off the ceiling, I won't insult you with easy answers. Some prayers take years. Some aren't answered the way we want. Some pain lingers longer than seems fair. But I will say this: when you take your hurt and aim it outward, when you pray for your children's peace more than your own comfort, when you open your small home to someone who needs a bed, when you show up for other women instead of folding in on yourself, you are aligning yourself with a kind of flow that tends to circle back. Call it karma. Call it sowing and reaping. Call it God's economy. I call it this. I asked for one healed home. I got two, my daughters, and quietly my own.